been a while. Hello, my name is Liz and you can find me on Instagram at @thegroucholiz. I am a knitter, recorder player, other stuff available as well. I live kind of on the outskirts of London and I haven't done this for well over a year. I remember the last one I did was mid-June 2021, sitting in the garden talking about the cat that poos there, at the jumper that I had been knitting for my husband James. We'll get back to that one. It's about 4 o'clock, 4:30 or so in the afternoon. The light probably would be better if I was sitting up against the door there, but then I would have just a very boring white background to my recording, and yeah, boring, no. Also white, glary, no. So I am next to my nice trusty knitting bookshelf, which has, in fairness, been rather neglected this year. Before I start, and I always forget this and have to record it and stick it in later, I am going to issue a disclaimer. I do not know what is going to come out of my mouth. It could be swearing. It could be adult themes. It could be absolute nonsense. Proceed at your own caution. Over the last year, I've had a bit of a hiatus. This sort of wasn't planned. At the end of last year, it was just so hot and I didn't really want to be knitting. Over December, I did Vlogmas, which is ridiculously busy and leaves no time for knitting. At the beginning of this year, I had rather lost my knitting mojo and I didn't really see the point in doing a knitting podcast, which basically was me sitting in front of my phone going, I haven't done any knitting. So I thought, that's fine, I will leave it until I do have some knitting to share or have something to say. Then I got a new job. That was just quite busy for the first month or so I had absolutely no energy, no mental space. And then at every point after that, when I had something I thought I wanted to say and something I wanted to record, I just had other stuff that I needed to do. And I'm sorry, if it's laundry versus recording a podcast, laundry has to come first. Tidying the house versus podcast, tidying the house has to come first, etc, etc, etc. So that's why we've got to this point with no podcast, no vlog, no nothing. Not even that much knitting, in fairness. So, let's start at the beginning. In the time I've been away from regular vlogging, I have been to Buckingham Palace for a picnic, visited Coventry Cathedral, spent the day elephant hunting with my nephews, went on brownie camp, did the hidden London tour of Charing Cross and got to see bits that normal everyday commuters don't, did Vlogmas, that was busy, made a long list of creative aims for 2022, visited St Albans, bought a couple of recorders, got a new job and discovered what it's like to have money in my bank account again. Had a weekend in Cambridge, had a weekend in Manchester, built a CD rack for all my recorder CDs, then bought some recorder CDs to go on it. Fell in love with Depeche Mode. Never expected that one. Bought a couple more recorders. Started to teach myself the guitar. Bought a synthesizer. Spent 3 days on the recorder playing in an early music ensemble. Yep, a lot of my creativity this year seems to be around music. Back in March, I think it was the day of a local election. I can remember that much. It was the Thursday, local election. I went to see a recorder concert by a performer called Piers Adams with a guy called David Wright on the harpsichord. And it blew my mind for many different reasons in multiple different directions. It was amazing. Since that point, I have started to keep a musical diary so that more to keep myself accountable of when I practice on the recorder, when I do stuff, when I read stuff. And that, I think, has taken up some of my knitting time, that musical creativity. The other thing I did at the beginning of the year was do a lot more work on my scrapbook. Back in 2010, Girl Guiding had their centenary year. It went from September 2009 to the 20th of October 2010. At the time of the centenary, I took loads of photographs. I have a whole scrapbook full of stuff that I've kept, leaflets, my membership card, postcards, all sorts of bits and pieces. And the idea was I was going to put it into a scrapbook, which I started but never finished. And I realised at the beginning of this year, if I don't actually get on and do something with it, then I'm still going to be here in another 10, 15 years time with 2 half full scrapbooks and a lot of photographs waiting to get stuck in. So that was a decent chunk of kind of February, March time, was doing a bit more on the scrapbook. There is still a lot more to do, but it is a lot better than it was. Last year, I made a list of creative aims for the year that I wanted to get completed by December. I didn't actually manage any of them, really. Not within December, certainly. So the list, as it was, knit at least 5 pairs of Christmas socks. I sort of completed that, but the final pair was completed January this year. Sew up the innocent smoothie hats, didn't happen. Knit at least 1 garment, didn't happen. Sew at least 1 item of clothing, didn't happen. Make a set of pattern weights. You can guess what I'm going to say here, aren't you? That didn't happen. Although for the pattern weights, I did decide I didn't really need them. I didn't know what to put in them to make sure they stayed heavy. I didn't want to put anything like rice in them, because if rice gets wet, ill. Didn't know what the alternative was. At the time, didn't have money for an alternative, and then realised I don't do enough sewing to justify pattern weights. So that one didn't happen because it got kicked off. Completing the rainbow section of the blanket also didn't happen. However, I have got some things to talk about from that list. Now this is the blouse that I started to make. I can't remember the pattern, I'll put a link in underneath. The neck is not right. No, you can't really see if I hold it up like that, but basically the neck is too low. I made a twirl. I tried to sort out the neck basically by making the cut of the neck higher. It's still too low. So I don't know whether to try and put some kind of pleat down the middle and bring it up that way, or whether to gather the neck so that it matches the gathering on the arms. I am not that good a seamstress to know what the answer is. When I found out the answer, I will let everybody know, I'm sure. I have also recorded all of the stages of making this blinking blouse. So there will be a separate article or separate video just on making my first item of clothing. But don't hold your breath for it. One of my aims was to put the rainbow section in on my mitered square blanket. What I did not realise was the blanket had more squares that needed to be added before I could put in the rainbow section. So I can't even remember which ones they were now, because I did this sort of December or so last year. Some of these all along here, they all needed to go in first before I could then put the rainbow section in. So I am now at the point where the rainbow section can go in. It's going to start here. I've got it all plotted out on a spreadsheet somewhere. But yes, I did work on my blanket, but I did not get the rainbow section in as I had wanted to. And I'm actually quite impressed with what it looks like so far. Look at it. It's all lovely and colourful, and it's mine. Moving subtly and swiftly on to works in progress, which I realise half of which I've left next door. There are a couple of pairs of socks which I know have been sitting waiting for me to do a heel on them. Next weekend we are going to Coventry to stay with a friend of mine, and then Sunday of next weekend, so a week today, we are going to see the table tennis at the Commonwealth Games. And then Monday we are going to be going and seeing the closing ceremony of the Commonwealth Games. We bought tickets for this before Christmas, but the friend that we're going to go and stay with is actually performing in the closing ceremony, which will make it even better. And apparently she's the opposite side of the arena from where we're going to be sitting. However, we are going to be there watching her perform, and it's massively exciting. So if I can sort out the heels on the 2 pairs of socks that are sort of languishing. I mean, I've got 3 pairs of socks, but two is good enough. If I can sort out the heels on the 2 pairs of socks that are languishing, that will give me knitting to do on the train. That would be a really useful train project, to do the legs and cuffs and finish off those 2 pairs of socks that are still outstanding. I have also, in looking for bits and pieces to talk about today, I have found another whip pair of socks which I had forgotten I had, which are these ones. Again, Christmas socks. The yarn is Christmas Waltz. I honestly cannot remember the name of the yarn dyer, but I bought these from Canada, I think. Really nice. I saw Jude from Stranded Dye Works had knit a pair and had talked about them in very old videos. And I looked at the yarn, I thought, that's really pretty, I want some of that. So when it was available, I think at the end of last year, I was like, yeah, I'm having some of that. So that literally just needs the toes on. It came with a coordinating yarn for the heels, toes and cuffs. Looks like that. So what I've done is knit in the stripy yarn up to the dark red, and then I will use the coordinating yarn to do the toe, just so it's not really obvious where the stripes end and the toe begins. And that is literally all that needs to happen on those socks, and I have not made it happen. So that is another one that's a really easy win. And last time I talked about James's jersey that I was going to knit him for his birthday, and I think I recorded this about a week, 10 days before his birthday. Knew it was not going to be finished in time. It was not finished in time. I think at the time I had only done the ribbing of one side and possibly 2 or 3 rows. I'd wrapped it up like that, and just basically just a line of ribbing and 2 or 3 rows of knitting, and said, hey, happy birthday, darling, here is a jumper. I ended up knitting the front and the back separate from each other, but I misread the pattern. So the pattern says, knit the back, do such and such. And then it says, knit the front up to such and such a point, and then do something different. I thought that I had to knit both the front and the back up to this point. So yeah, that's the back. Say this one is the back. I just need to do the shaping for the arms and the neck, and then the back is finished. I did the same thing for the front. Back, front. You see? Front. Also quite long. What the pattern actually said was knit the front and the back the same as far as the ribbing, and then knit 35 centimetres. I think 35 centimetres is somewhere about here. I haven't actually measured it, I don't know for certain. So basically all of this is a complete waste. All of that needs to be pulled back. I don't have words. I don't have words. I mean, I'm less worried now that I'm going to run out of yarn. But as I was knitting it, I was thinking, this is a very high neck. This is going to be a very, very small neck, because I was sort of expecting a V-neck to be V like this, and I was sort of ending up thinking it was going to be ended up like this. It was all very, very strange. So that would explain it. That would explain why I didn't think I was going to have enough yarn left, and that would explain why I was worried about it being a very tight V-neck, because I hadn't knit it correctly. So at some point all of that has to come out, and I have to pick it up and start knitting it properly again, and I don't want to do that. I may even have been really conscientious and woven in the ends, so it's not just I have to unravel it, it's like I have to unravel it with the ends woven in. So that's where I'm at with my whips. I also have on my notes slash acquisition, which is this. I mean, I did buy some stuff from America, which I think arrived in about December. It may or may not have appeared in Vlogmas. It's in a bag on a shelf somewhere. I'm not pulling it out. Earlier in the year, we went to Cambridge for our wedding anniversary weekend. Basically, I booked it all last minute. We missed the train I wanted to be on. The customer service assistant at King's Cross was rude as anything and left me really upset. So we didn't get to Cambridge until quite late. The Saturday of the weekend away, we did a gin tasting session, which is ridiculous. I mean, it was really good fun, really nice gin. But drinking gin on an empty stomach, not my cleverest move, not either of our cleverest move, but it was a really lovely weekend away. On the Saturday of that weekend, we went to a yarn shop, kind of on the outskirts of the city, and I bought this, which is Stylecraft, head over heels, and it is a Christmassy yarn. Because obviously you buy your Christmas yarn in April. Why not? So that's literally my stash acquisition for the year.
There was supposed to be a summary / looking forward bit to round off, but I don't appear to have recorded it. So, these ladies knitting on a tube station platform during the Blitz will have to keep you company whilst I say thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Alternatively, leave a comment below and let me know the worst pattern reading mistake you've ever made. See you next time.
It was here a second ago. Where the freaking heck has it gone? Oh, I'm sitting on it. Of course I am.